Good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Is the US stock market finally hitting a top, and are we about to see it roll over? There's been some further geopolitical escalations today, and we're looking at the Nasdaq index, and we're on a daily candlestick chart here, and we can see the high from the 30th of October. Now, interestingly, that high has not been touched, and we seem to be rolling over again. We've got this little sort of rising wedge pattern here, this little squeeze, didn't get to the previous high. And we've also seen a little bit of negative divergence forming on the momentum indicator, momentum indicators. It looks a little bit more prominent on the, if we go to like an 8 hourly chart, we can see it a little better. Clear negative divergence there. We can see the price making higher highs while the momentum indicators make lower highs. That's generally a sign that the uptrend is losing momentum or that it's time to sell. And of course, if we go back to that, 8 hour chart, you can see the support line here rising, squeezing into this wedge. It didn't get back to the previous all-time high, and now it's breaking down, testing the breakdown, and starting to roll over, at least in the short term. Let's delete that because that looks a little bit messy now, but we can see it a lot more clearly here. Even if we take the low from April 2025, so almost a year ago now, we can see another massive rising wedge. I've been talking about this in previous videos. Rising wedge, negative divergence on momentum indicators all the way up. Finally, this trend seems to be running out of momentum. We can see it starting to roll over. I'm not going to I obviously can't give investment advice on these videos. We're just looking at this for educational purposes, but it clearly looks like it's running out of a bit of steam. If we go back to a 5-year chart, we can see, look at this run that it's had since, well, let's take the low from December 2022. We can see it's still up 127%. Look, this is zoomed back 5 years now. Look at this little tiny roll over here. It barely looks like anything on the long-term chart. And it'd be hard to make a case that it's a strong buy up here. Again, not suggesting that the Nasdaq or the US stocks, global stocks can't continue to run high in general. But, we've got this little false breakout here, I would say. And then, with these higher highs being made, we see the momentum indicators flattening out. So we're on the weekly chart here. Negative divergence again as the price goes up. Not making fresh highs on the momentum indicators. We've had this massive run. We can see it's hitting that. Even if you think this uptrend is intact, it's at least hitting this ceiling here and probably needs to do a bit of this before it goes on. And of course, I would be, I'm not calling for massive crashes. I think central banks will prop up markets as they always have. And I think if we got back to a level like that, I would expect a bounce. And that's not even really that much of a sell-off. We're only talking about a 12% sell-off to get to there. Now, let's do something really scary. Keep in mind, this was the 1-year chart, and then we're going to move back to a longer-term chart. So this is a 1-year chart, and this is the little sort of rounding out or sell-off we might be seeing. Here's a 5-year chart, and then let's go to an all-time chart. And that's where it's back here. See this? This is your dot-com bubble. That's your dot-com bubble crash. Now, in fairness, let's put it on a log scale and we can see the trend a little bit more clearly. But there was a major bottom after the 2009 global financial crisis. So we can see, look at that uptrend, just relentless. And you'd have to say, even on a log scale, this thing, even just to correct to this line that it's only touched a couple of times in the last, 18 years, touched the 2009 low, almost tested it in 2019, got there in 2020, tested it again in 2022. To get to that line, you're talking about maybe a 25-28% decline. That would be something interesting to watch in terms of, for me, probably coming back to a level where I would start to accumulate a little bit. Of course, my clients always have a little bit of exposure to global stock markets, but right now through generally higher income funds, very safe, boring funds. So anyway, to summarize, it looks like we're potentially seeing a top. There is some news developing today. I saw Trump just threaten 200% tariffs on French wine, on the champagne coming in, that sort of stuff. So maybe the market's starting to see that, this, in addition to the non-trade stuff that's going on that I probably can't talk about in this video, there's a whole bunch of trade war stuff starting to heat up again. So lots of potential to cause little panic sell-offs in the stock market. Thanks for listening. Cheers.